Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
It's almost time.
Now we'll find out once and for all about Clark Kent, Superman.
Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's a TV show.
Yes, but who is he? What's his name?
He's Superman.
Golly, Clark, won't that be wonderful seeing Superman?
Fighting a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and television the Me TV way.
No one can do the things that Superman does.
The Adventures of Superman.
Now on Me TV Fresno, Xfinity 187.
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this day. Today we're talking about a very serious topic, an expert in the house, talking about depression and how to deal with it, how to handle it, how to contain it in your life. 436 Me TV option 11. We're here for you on this Friday morning.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
And we're back on a Friday morning. The week is already gone, and we're glad you're here on a Friday morning because we're talking about depression. And, you know, it is a major topic, a major concern for so many millions and millions of Americans across the country. We'll talk about it today, and, you know, we're kind of phasing in and out. We're experimenting here on Connect with Me. We're kind of phasing in and out. Black and white, back to color. Living color right here on NBC. That's right. I love that in and out thing. Anyway, you know, I do want to tell you, finding out by reading Rick Bentley's column yesterday in the Fresno Bee, that we're actually going to be changing channels here on Me TV Fresno. That's right. I think come August the 25th or thereabouts. Don't quote me on that, okay? It's kind of tentative on the date, but we're going to be switching from channel 187. We'll still be on Comcast, but a whole host of channels are changing. Whoops, just went to black there. Okay, you want to go to commercial and we'll fix this thing, or just do my monologue? Okay. We'll be switching from Comcast channel 187 to 375, I believe, but a whole host of channels are switching from the 180s to the 300s. You'll still be able to see us on Comcast, which is a reminder to go to the graphic, full screen, Comcast 187 every day until the change. Over the air won't change, 43.6, 13.1, and 8.1. And the replay of this program will not change, and your phone calls won't change. 2 o'clock in the afternoon at 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. You can catch the replay. Hey, and then on YouTube, they're there 24/7. They'll be there on YouTube and outer space and however they get managed up there long after you and I are both gone, my friends. Anyway, the Twitter account has never changed, and it won't, at John Mallos, Me TV. All right, time to get serious here, and time once again to try to tackle the issue of depression. Nearly 15 million adults in this country are clinically depressed. That according to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. That's what it's called. I want to put a photo up on the screen. We'll talk about this today, but I got to tell you something. Talk about unhappiness by the numbers across the board. In fact, recently in Chattanooga, you know all about it, the shooter Mohammed Yosef Abdulaziz, according to an article in the New York Times, was diagnosed with mental illness in his early teens. He was treated in high school and college, but wasn't always good about taking his medication. Law enforcement confirmed he had serious psychological and mental problems. He turned to drugs, he turned to alcohol, while family members tried to get him back into rehab. They never ever in a million years thought he would kill 5 U.S. soldiers. And James Holmes, the Colorado theater shooter, was convicted of killing 12 people, injuring dozens of others 2 years ago. His attorneys argued for a time that he suffered from schizophrenia and was in the grip of a psychotic breakdown at the time, so severe, in fact, that he was unable to tell right from wrong. His team tried to present him as this once promising kid who was crippled by mental illness and depression. In fact, 2 psychiatrists and schizo experts declared him legally insane. Jurors didn't buy it. They found him guilty, and now he could face the death penalty. Live in our studio right now to talk about this is our mental health expert, Peter Nazaretian, a family therapist who talks to both adults. He also talks to children. He's been practicing for many years, and we'll talk to him about these 2 cases and also the ongoing issue of depression and why there are so many people and why so many people go undiagnosed or untreated, too. That's a big problem. I was reading all about that on the internet. Anyway, 436-ME-TV, option 11. And let me just preface this by saying, look, if you're depressed, if you have an issue, call up. Ask Peter a question. That's why he is here. You don't have to mention your name, but call up, ask your question, or if you want to make an appointment and go in and see him, he'll give you the phone number to call here on the program today. He's a great, great guest. Anyway, 436-ME-TV, option 11. Back in living color, believe it or not, in just a moment.
We need help to find this missing child. April Andrews went missing when she was 15 years old. She was last seen in Pea Ridge, Arkansas in November of 2006. This is what we believe she looks like today at 23. If you have any information, please call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. Please help bring April Andrews home.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law, and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
Back here on the program today, and my apologies to you last week, sir. I know you were supposed to be on the program last week, and I got all fouled up on the schedule, so my apologies. I'm glad you're here today, though.
Me too, no worries.
And all right, so depression. Let me get to the 2, Peter, that I talked about in the monologue. Let's start with Abdulaziz first, this Chattanooga shooter. I mean, his family claims he was depressed. Let's put his picture up again, and you'll see, it's not a very flattering photo, I guess. That's what he looked like lately. But do you find this to be a case of mental illness that caused this, or is this more of an act of terrorism and being associated with Islam, radical Islam, and ISIS? I don't know.
Well, of course, it's impossible to say without talking to him directly, and that's difficult. This is obviously more than simple depression. Clearly, he has more mental illness issues going on, probably either bipolar or schizophrenia, but I'm just taking a shot there. Depression, part of it, sure, especially if it's bipolar.
Part of it? Schizo's part of it too?
Schizophrenia may or may not have a specific depression component. Depression is its own diagnosis. Schizophrenia is a very different thing, much more serious. So while depression may have been an issue, clearly what pushed him over the edge to kill 5 soldiers was beyond depression.
Yeah, it was something beyond what we can comprehend, I think, at the time. But we do know he turned to drugs and alcohol. Is that kind of a sign that, hey, I'm depressed, everything is black and dark, and I can't see the light, I'm going to turn to something I can relate to?
You know, that's an interesting question. What we find out is oftentimes people use drugs and alcohol to self-medicate. For example, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, if you had somebody who was severely mentally ill in your family, you basically locked them in the closet when, company came over, because that's all you could do. And we find out by looking at people's histories. Oftentimes I'll ask clients, do you have a history of mental illness in the family? And I say, not as far as we know. I say, well, do you have any alcoholism in the family? And very often I'll say, oh yeah, my grandfather was an alcoholic, and so was my Uncle Bob. And what we find out is what we think was alcoholism was really self-medicating. They were depressed, they were schizophrenic, they were bipolar, and if they drank enough, it just kind of put the lid on it.
Yeah.
And so that was the trick for a lot of years. So oftentimes if there's alcoholism in the family, this is something the viewers can think of, if they say, well, I think everybody in my family's fine, but gee, I should mention it, we have a couple of alcoholics. Well, of course, as Freud once said, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. It could be there's alcoholics. That's possible. But it also could be...
He really did say that?
He did, yeah. But sometimes it's obviously an indicator there's something more serious going on, and we're using alcohol simply to kind of mellow it out.
Yeah. Okay, let's put up a picture of this guy, Holmes. And, you know, this guy, we saw it again yesterday in Lafayette, Louisiana. And of course a theater shooter went in yesterday, a 59-year-old white male went in, he killed 2 people including himself. We saw it 2 years ago with this guy Holmes. Now look at that, he does look, I gotta admit, he looks crazy. I've never met the guy, I don't know him, know nothing about other than what I read, but he killed 12 people, I do know that.
Well, a very festive hair color, I must say. And clearly something, when you're going to a theater, pulling out a gun and starting to shoot people, clearly something has gone wrong. Even if this is something as simple as depression, and I doubt that it is, that would be something called depression with psychotic features, where it gets so intense, so severely debilitating that they act out in some way. This is over the top. This is probably, again, more like a bipolar or schizophrenia, I would guess. But depression with psychotic features could be part of it.
Yeah, is the hang on caller, just a moment here, the wild hairdo, what's that all about, Peter? Is that a statement by him or what?
Hard to know without talking to him, total speculation. But obviously I would suspect he's somebody who feels very disenfranchised by the world, doesn't feel like he's being listened to or cared about, and that hair may be a sort of an attention-getting device.
Yeah. Caller, go ahead, you're on the air.
Yeah, let me ask you, the doctor, is there any possible way that people, such as the ones who've done a lot of killings, going to theaters and whatnot, can they fake an anxiety or mental illness just to get out of the situations that they have done?
Thank you, caller. That's a great question. And again, without looking at the individual cases specifically, it's hard to make a blanket statement. However, clearly people have faked mental illness for a variety of reasons. But when you go to the point of going to a theater like this and shooting people, and then thinking, oh, I'll just get out of this by saying I'm mentally ill. Clearly something's wrong. Who shoots people like that in a mass murder kind of thing? No, this is something seriously wrong. And so they may say, well, let's exacerbate your mental illness so we can see if we can get an insanity defense. So possibly, but I think something has to be very, very wrong to do that in the first place.
Yeah.
And so mental illness, they can fake beyond what they have perhaps, but is there something mentally wrong there?
I think a lot of defendants do that. They'll try to fake it.
Absolutely.
I had a mental breakdown. I didn't know what I was doing when clearly they knew right from wrong.
Well, yeah. Who doesn't want to get off the hook? You go to your kid who's got chocolate frosting all around his mouth and say, did you eat the last piece of cake? No. Because they don't want to be caught. They don't want to take the consequences. So we all have a little bit of that. This is far beyond that, of course. But I think inherently nobody wants to be responsible for bad things.
Yeah. They don't want to be responsible for their own actions.
Yeah.
And, of course, I guess we're all that way a little bit, but I try to take responsibility as much as I can. When I make mistakes, I freely admit it because, you know what? We're not perfect, but at least we're not out killing people, for God's sake, Peter.
That's right.
I mean, God, you clearly do have to be crazy to do that. I have to say, I'm not a psychiatrist, not a psychologist, but to go out and kill somebody, anybody, for no reason is just crazy.
It's not normal.
No, it's not normal.
No.
It isn't. We got to take a break. That's normal. We got to make some moolah here. And so 436-ME-TV option 11. You can call in, weigh in, back in just a moment.
Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're the save energy, save time, save money place. The Energy Star qualified #1 rated high-efficiency Cabrio from Whirlpool Place. You heard right. Right now, save big on select Whirlpool Cabrio laundry pairs and pay no interest when paid in full within 6 months. At the hometown low price, think outside the big box place. Since 1951, Ventura TV Appliance Center. We're working hard to be your place.
Hello, I'm John Walsh. We need your help to capture this fugitive. James Bell is an alleged child predator. Bell's wanted for molesting 3 girls ages 9 through 13 while working in a local YMCA in 2003. He was arrested, then fled. Bell has worked as a gymnastics instructor, coach, and a computer repairman. Bell could be anywhere along the West Coast. If you know where he is, call 617-742-5533.
Back here on the program, talking with Peter Nazaretian. He is a family therapist. He sees and speaks to each and every day, both adults and children. And before I get into the next topic here, what's without getting into too many details, but when you talk to these individuals on a daily basis, you've been doing this for what, 20 plus years?
Yep.
Yeah. So what's the main, what are the complaints of people when they come in to see you? What is their main issue? Is it depression?
You know, that's a great question. I was fortunate enough to be on staff at a mental hospital for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm sorry, I'm overstating that. Probably about 12 years on staff with them.
Wow.
Yeah. And
as a
therapist.
Therapist, okay.
And saw in that time thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I counted. It's amazing. And although there was depression, schizophrenia, bipolar, every mental illness you can think of, there were three common characteristics to virtually every pathology I saw. Interesting, and it may surprise you. Boundaries, communication skills, and self-esteem.
Okay, say that one more time.
Boundaries, communication skills, and self-esteem. Those 3 pieces underlaid almost every bit of pathology I ever saw. So some of you out there, if these are issues you're struggling with, of course, we're talking about the chemical imbalance, things like depression. But the reality is that underneath that, most of us struggle with boundaries, the ability to say no. We struggle with self-esteem. We don't like ourselves very much. And a great truth I'm about to tell you, nobody in this world will love you more than you love yourself. You won't let them. So we can fake it for a while, but eventually we'll sabotage relationships because we don't think we deserve them.
Yeah.
And communication skills, the ability to honestly and openly communicate what we're thinking and feeling. And most people hedge that because they don't want to, they don't want to upset people or distress people or let people know they have an issue, so we don't talk. So those 3 pieces are really the underlying.
Or communication skills. They don't want to put themselves out there and get hurt either, right?
Yes.
Is that a possibility?
Yep. Yeah. I want a lot of relationships, marriages are I want to say fake, but everybody's, I only want you to see what I want you to see. By the image, by what's up front. Kind of a little bit like that, remember that great scene in The Wizard of Oz when they've come to Munchkin Land and there's suddenly the big head of the wizard floats over and says, "I'm the great and wonderful Wizard of Oz." And Toto runs over to this little cubicle on the side with a curtain in front of the door and pulls it back, and here's this fellow inside about 4'2", and looking, and he's got his hand, and he says, "Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain." And that's really all of us. We hope that people buy our look, our image, our whatever we want to put out there, because inside we struggle in ways that nobody knows. So that's that underlying stuff. We all do a little bit of that.
Yeah. I was thinking last night, we have to talk about Bill Cosby. And I was thinking about this before I actually went to bed last night, and I had a dream. I'll tell you what the dream was in just a moment. That's Bill Cosby right there. He's had so many accusers now, what is it, more than 24, who claim that he drugged them and then had, for the purpose of having sex with them, he gave them Quaaludes. Now, to this, it's the ultimate in deception and the ultimate in bad behavior, of course, and to me that's rape. I mean, that's how I characterize it. But are there any depression or mental health issues going on with Mr. Cosby here?
Again, impossible to say without knowing him. However, taking from the media what we see and knowing how he operates, I don't see so much of a depression component. There may be, but he doesn't seem to be, another I said it. But is there a personality disorder here? Absolutely.
Is that connected to depression and maybe a little bit of self-esteem issues?
Self-esteem would enter into it. Personality disorders, unfortunately, unlike most mental illnesses, cannot be medicated. It's not pathological in the sense that it's genetic. It is induced. It is learned. So that's a different thing. Obviously, there's some arrogance there. There's some narcissism there. I can get away with this. I can do this to dozens of women, and as long as everybody buys my Huxtable image from the TV show, I'm this sweet guy and makes people laugh. Nobody associates this heinous behavior with this pleasant, affable fellow. Yeah. And he got away with that for years. In fact, in Hollywood, people are saying, well, we thought Jimmy Walker, JJ, we're saying this morning, I thought everybody knew.
Yeah.
Everybody knew he was doing this kind of thing. I didn't realize there were drugs involved, but I thought everybody knew he was a womanizer. And I don't think everybody knew that. Now, of course, I think everybody does. But there's an arrogance about I can get away with that. And that's a personality disorder.
See, the dream I had last night, and you might find this irrelevant because I was thinking about talking about Bill Cosby today, and that is, this is about control. He had control of those people, and last night's dream was somebody drugged me, took me out of my house, and put me in a different home. They took control of my life and put me in a different home, and everything, I woke up out of a daze, and everything was different. And so I would imagine it's the same for these women, and it's a very scary proposition. Who in the world would do such a thing? Who? I want to know who. And I don't know Cosby, never met him, don't care to meet him, don't care one way or the other, but who could do such a thing to take control of someone's life like this, even for 5 or 10 minutes?
It's hard to believe, and I think that the difficult thing is knowing his reputation, knowing the way he affects people. How could a guy like this pleasant father figure that we've come to like, how could he do this? Because underneath it all, that's who he really is. The image we see, Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Funny.
That's not who he is?
No, that's the other side of him. That's the part I want you to see. I want to make you laugh. I want to make a ton of money. But quietly, behind the scenes, every time I say a woman, I want to get her.
You think that's the real him?
Oh, clearly.
Because of this behavior?
Whatever our lowest moment is, when we get angry, when we lash out, when we're barking at somebody, whatever level we can get to, that's our real self. That doesn't mean we live there all the time. Certainly, that's not a decent thing in society. But whatever our lowest common denominator is, that's our real self.
You're saying we all get in the gutter sometimes.
Yeah, well, don't you? Don't you have a bad day once in a while? A bad moment once in a while?
Okay.
Nobody likes that, but we're capable of it. That's where we're at.
Yeah. All right. Okay. But we don't cross the line like that.
No, and we don't live there. This is something that's our range, but we live in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if Bill Cosby ever heard of live and let live. I mean, that's my motto. Be free and let everyone else live free. We have a call here. Let's take the call real quick. Got to go to break? Okay. Hang on, caller. We'll be with you in just a moment. I got to take a break, or someone's going to start controlling me. 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back in just a moment.
You can find movies on over-the-air channel 13.3. Movies. Our name says it all.
Take a look at this. Let's play.
This is too hip for you. I'll slow down.
Let's play.
Watch all your favorite classic game shows on Buzzer TV, KBBC Digital Channel 13.7.
Back here on the program talking about, not even halfway through yet, so we have a lot to get to, but talking about depression and schizo and being a little mentally off. And I know we're a little mentally off. I think everyone is, but I think to what degree, that's the issue today. And caller, you're there. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi, this is two questions. The first one is, as a professional, what key markers does he use or do you use to tell whether a person is telling the truth, lying, actually, and then what do you use to be able to diagnose them and send them to whatever help they really need, And my second question is...
How can you tell if somebody is faking it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or are they faking it, or be able to properly diagnose what the problem is. Is it depression? Is it something worse? Is it, what does he look for,
Okay, good question. Two things to talk about with there. Number one, in terms of the diagnostic criteria that we use in the mental health field, it's a thing called the DSM, that basically is a manual of symptoms, and if you fit the criteria for the symptoms, you'll be diagnosed with that particular illness, whatever it might be. And a psychiatrist does that, or a medical doctor. Psychologists can also diagnose. It may not be medically viable, but they oftentimes can diagnose even better than a psychiatrist, who often sees patients for only 15 minutes at a time. Whereas a mental health professional may sit with you for an hour. I remember in the hospital when I worked there, I saw patients more FaceTime than the doctor and all the nurses combined on a daily basis. I was with them all the time. So I was able to see things that sometimes the doctors weren't able to see because they could fake it for 15 minutes while they were talking to the doc. But I saw them all day long, and I would tell you, doctor, you might want to look at this. This came out in session, and you might want to look at that. He'd question it. Sure enough, that piece was there. Change the medication. So that's how it's done specifically. The other way, when you talk to somebody, unfortunately, and this is a little bit difficult, especially somebody mentally ill, it's a thing called self-report. Basically, we asked you questions. How, we can't unscrew the top of your head and say, what's going on? Oh, let's connect these wires. There, that's better. We can't do that. We basically ask you a series of questions. Assuming that you tell the truth, we get some kind of a diagnosis. But this is where the faking part comes in. Suppose I answer the questions untruthfully. Suppose I deny I'm doing this or doing that. Well, then we have to go by that, and then the actions come in. So it's not an easy thing to do to diagnose. If the person wants to be helped, of course, it makes it much easier to tell the truth. If somebody wants to avoid responsibilities or recriminations, then they're going to fake it. So unfortunately, it's an imprecise art.
Yeah, but you can tell. There are devices put in place where you can tell if somebody is faking or lying about it.
Yeah, a professional can usually be very accurate about that.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a couple of minutes here before we got to go to break. So let's put up the first graphic and go through some of these, called Depression Can Be Challenging to Manage. Let's put that one up. We've got several bullet points here. And let's go through the first one. Depressed mood most of the day, feeling sad or empty or tearful. What is that about?
Well, it's kind of self-descriptive. If you're finding yourself sometimes saying, I just can't seem to stop crying. I'm just so blue. Now, we all have a bad day once in a while. We all have a blue day, get up on the wrong side of the bed perhaps. But
and that's normal.
That's normal. The ebbs and flows of life.
Okay.
But for some people who feels this way on a pervasive basis, 2 weeks at a time, several days at a time, most of us get into a funk, and we're, by that night, by the next day, we're over it. The weekend, maybe. But for somebody who lives like that day after day after day after day, that's when it gets difficult. They're just sad all the time.
Yeah, the next bullet point says significant loss of interest or pleasure in activities that used to be enjoyable. Like, say, let's play golf or tennis or whatever.
Heck, watching TV. One of the big ones in relationships, hate to say it, folks, sex. When people lose interest in it, that is not only losing interest in the act itself, but the people that you're around suddenly feel like you don't like them anymore. Or
why do people lose interest in sex?
Depression.
Really?
Depression, sure.
Okay.
It's a pleasurable thing. They don't, they just,
Okay. Caller, you're there. Go ahead.
Yes. Do you see society changing the definition of mental health? Just because, let's say, the person is considered a racist, so instead of now he may be mentally ill because his views aren't correct, or something a little less than that. Is that possible, or is that going on right now? Thank you.
Thank you. To indicate that somehow racism might be an issue for mental health, no, I'm gonna say no. That's not accurate. That's not to say that a racist couldn't be mentally ill, or that somebody who isn't mentally ill could be a racist. Obviously but those are two different things. Racism as such is probably something that's a learned behavior. For example, about 10 years ago, I think it was, there was a cover of Time magazine or Newsweek magazine, and it was a picture of a young couple, probably in their late 20s, in full KKK, Ku Klux Klan regalia, and sitting on the lap between them was a 3-year-old kid, also in full Ku Klux Klan regalia, pointed hats the whole bit, 2 bandoliers of bullets around this 3-year-old kid, and all staring at the screen. And I thought to myself, this kid is going to grow up to hate people of color.
Yeah.
Not because there's anything wrong with people of color. They're perfectly fine. But he's going to get that message from the parents all day long that this is a bad thing. You need to hate these people.
Learned behavior?
Learned behavior. So he grows up saying, I don't like people of color around me. Not because there's anything wrong with them, but because mom and dad, exactly. It's a learned behavior. So not the same thing as mental illness.
Yeah. All right. We got to go to break. But you've known me long enough. Can you tell if I'm in a good or a bad mood?
Yeah.
You can? What about today?
On the air, you're always in a good mood.
What about off the air? How was I when you came in?
You were having a moment, John.
So was she. She was having a moment also. All right, we were all having a moment here. Can we have a moment to just take a break here? 436 MeTV, option 11. We're back in just a moment. I love honesty. Hey, why not?
We need help to find this missing child. Erica Parsons was 13 when she disappeared. She was last seen in Salisbury, North Carolina in November of 2011. This is what we believe she looks like today at age 16. If you have any information, please call the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678.
We get our speed from Mom and Dad. They do stuff super fast. And now they got this new kitchen, so they're even faster. So they can help us with our free throws.
The time-saving Frigidaire Gallery line with a quick preheat and smudge-proof stainless steel that resists fingerprints and cleans easily. It's mealtime in no time, from start to clean. Frigidaire Gallery.
Save more during Frigidaire Gallery bonus days when you buy 3 or more qualifying appliances. See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
Back here on the program on a Friday morning. Glad you're here. And Peter Nazaretian is also here. Let's get back to our full screen graphics. Oh yeah, we got to do the disclaimer first. Okay, ask the expert. We got to put a disclaimer up, and don't ask me why, but we do it here. And you know, Peter came in of his own free will. We didn't pay him. He didn't pay us, and he is an expert in the field, been a family therapist for the better part of 25 years plus. In fact, worked in an institution for 12 years and helped patients there. So I'm glad you're here.
My pleasure.
All right, back to the full screen graphics, because I do want to run down. We have a whole host of items we need to talk about here.
Sure.
Depression can be challenging. Let's get to item number 3. Significant weight loss, as we know, dieting or weight gain, decrease or increase in appetite. So we know that food plays a major role, huh?
Well, for most of us, you've heard the term comfort eating or comfort food. People do this. They eat too much. I'm depressed. I don't like life. But if I sit here and have enough M&Ms, maybe I'll feel better. Or I'll just starve myself. I'm not even worth feeding, or I can't even get to the refrigerator. I'm just listless. So it works both ways.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Okay. Difficulty sleeping, of course. You know, you sleep too much, you sleep too little.
Exactly.
Oh my God, I can't sleep again. I'm going to pop some pills.
Most people think depressed people sleep too much. That's probably accurate, but it can also go the other way too, where you can't sleep at all.
Yeah. How about agitation? Are people who are depressed, are they agitated all the time?
It can be. Not always. Some people are flat and numb and don't have much of anything, but you know that depression and anxiety are two sides of the same coin. You can't have depression without anxiety. You can't have anxiety without depression. If one is pervasive, you may not notice the other, but usually they're together. So when you say agitation, that could also be a little bit of that, anxiety.
Yeah. All right. What about fatigue?
Yeah, tired all the time. That's more of probably a perception than the actual physical thing, but I just don't have any get-up. My get-up and go got up and went.
What about feeling worthless? There are actually people that feel worthless and inappropriate, and they walk around feeling guilty all the time,
Absolutely.
Right?
We're going back to those 3 markers I mentioned to you with being in the hospital, self-esteem. I feel worthless. I don't feel lovable. I don't feel even likable. And nobody's going to care for me. And if that's the perception that we have, we wind up, that sad sack mentality comes out.
Yeah, and if you're putting all these labels on people, you might as well throw in concentrate. Who could concentrate when they're in that state of mind?
Absolutely.
Not me.
It's hard. It's very, very difficult. Being depressed is people often say something like snap out of it. Well, if I could snap out of this, don't you think I would? This is no fun. It makes other people uncomfortable. So they say things like snap out of it. When I feel like that, I just whistle a happy tune. Well, great, that works for you, not so much for me.
All right. Do people actually think about death and suicide? I mean, I think about when am I going to die? How am I going to die? But I don't believe I've ever thought about suicide. Not that I recall.
We are the only creatures on the planet that know we're alive.
Right.
And the only ones who know that we won't be at some point. and that we can make a difference in the middle. If things are too difficult, too painful, too uncomfortable, we can always take ourselves out. We're the only ones on the planet that know this. So suicide for a thinking person is always an option, although for most of us it's way low. In fact, we're looking, we're not looking to end this. We want to extend this a little bit. So yeah, for the average person, it's not an issue.
What's the most common way that someone might commit suicide?
Depends on the gender.
Women?
Yeah,
women?
Women are much more likely to take pills.
And say a men are more likely to take a gun and blow their brains out?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air, live.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Listen, in my younger years, I think there's chemical imbalance. First question, are you born with that? And I admit I had a hard time with depression in high school. It got worse. It's funny, it's got worse in high school, and but they didn't give me anything. And so a lot of people thought it was chemical imbalance, where your body isn't producing a certain chemical, I guess you would say, to bring you up. And can you talk a little about that? And I appreciate that. I'll say this: I'm a lot better now. But does it get better? Even though I am better, does it get better with other people majority of the time? And thank you very much.
Thank you for that call.
Answer.
Interesting question.
Great, good question. Yeah, it's interesting that your depression got worse in high school, and of course that's a time in our life when most of us are trying to figure out who we are and how we fit in the universe, and are we likable, are we lovable, are we attractive, are we athletic? So a lot of pressure in high school to figure out who we are. So
I didn't like the way I looked in high school.
Most of us don't.
Yeah.
Most of us, we have the football captain and the head cheerleader, and they seem to be just icons of beauty, and and the rest of us are just, popping pimples.
I had these pimples all over the place.
Yeah. We're all, we're all.
I did. What are you laughing at? You probably did too.
We're all, for guys, we're all elbows and knees and Adam's apples, and testosterone dripping out of every hole in our body, and it's a very tough time. And girls are trying to be perfect and look good, and a lot of pressure on that. So anyway, I'm sorry about what happened in high school. But this is how it works with people. As you get older, unfortunately, you mentioned, does it get better? And I'm glad you got better. But if you did without medication, wow! Because like anything else, as you get older, with your eyesight, it gets worse. Your hearing gets worse. Your digestion gets worse.
But do most teens get out of that funk that what the caller was referring to? Do they get out of that state of mind?
Yeah, if it's not chemical, you mentioned chemical imbalance. Great phrase, by the way, because that's really what it is. You want to know that. Let's shift gears and go to what exactly is depression. It's a chemical imbalance. We don't have enough serotonin, a naturally produced brain hormone. We have about 50 in our body called serotonin.
Can we take a pill for that?
Well, antidepressants will do it, and here's how it works. We're all going too technical on it. Serotonin is the electrical conductor of energy in the brain, and our brain works by talking to itself by sending electrical impulses along the neural pathways. And if there isn't a carrier, if we can't transport the message from one synapse to another, then that's when we get that thick, stuck, numb feeling. It just doesn't connect.
Is it similar to pulling the plug and the lights go out?
Yeah, that's a little radical.
Cutting the circuit.
Basically, there's not. We're not getting electricity. When you take an antidepressant, all it does is basically, without describing how, it stimulates that electricity. So now we can think. It's like somebody pulling the sock out of your head. And you go, oh wow, I can. It's all right. Now I can think clearly. It's not exactly antidepressed, but it is a lighter, brighter feeling, and that's very desirable.
And that's where the medication.
That's with medication, yes.
All right, a lot more to talk about here. We got to take a break. 436-ME-TV option 11 if you want to call Peter and ask about depression. And if you're depressed or have had bouts with depression coming in and out, feel free to call in. I mean, you don't have to give your name. You certainly don't have to give what city you're calling from. You don't want nobody knowing, but we'll give Peter's phone number. You can call him and go see him in a private session at some point. 436-ME-TV option 11. We're back in just a moment.
A top secret location. It's the spies who love me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
Best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
The yellow finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Retro TV, your home for classic television. The greatest shows in history are here for you to enjoy. Join Cosby and Colt as secret agent men in I Spy. Ride along the Ponderosa with the Cartwrights in Bonanza. Hit the beat with Joe Friday in Dragnet. And that's not all. Retro TV offers endless fun and excitement for the whole family to enjoy. Retro TV, the best in classic television.
You can find Retro TV on over-the-air channel 13.4.
Back here in the studio at Ventura TV on the showroom floor, and we're talking about depression. And let's put up, because I don't want to run out of time here, let's put all these up. Major depression. Let's put that graphic up and get through these. And here it is: loss of interest, pleasure activities. We talked about this, the weight gain, trouble getting to sleep, feeling bad. Do things seem to speed up or slow down for a lot of people?
And depressed people slow down. I would
Really?
say if you're out there in a bipolar, then you're going to have a speed up process with the manic side, but with the depression, things will slow down.
But what about trying to speed up so you're trying to forget you're depressed, so you're speeding up to try to...
If you can get the energy, for a lot of people when they're depressed, getting that forward motion is difficult.
Right. All right. Got a call coming in here. We'll go back to that in a moment. Good morning. You're on Connect with Me.
Good morning. My name is Juan. I'm calling about the issue that you guys were talking about, Bill Cosby, and some of the sexual allegations that are against him. But also, since he's such a high-profile personality, you guys chose him to discuss. There are so many other high-profile, rich people who commit these kinds of crimes, like the allegations against Alan Dershowitz and Epstein and Prince Andrew, and those guys have been fighting it for an extremely long period of time. Mm-hmm. And for all the allegations that have been brought against them, they had a little blow up about it around January, and then everything quieted back down. And Mr. Cosby's seems to be going on and on and on and on. And I think at some point it's going to be resolved. But I just wondered why you guys choose to ignore some of the other ones. I know that you guys probably want to narrow your conversation to a particular individual, but I'd like to hear from you guys.
Well,
Thank you.
No, caller, stay there just for a second. We're not trying to ignore anybody. I wouldn't do that. But I think, maybe you would agree with me on this. I don't know. Maybe disagree. But I think Cosby is like the most high profile of celebrities. It goes back, he was on television for many years, the Huxtables, of course, that family that was the all-American family, right? And Bill Cosby was the head of that family. He was a doctor in the show, and he had this pristine image. In fact, he had a great relationship with kids. Remember, the almost like Art Linkletter did back in the day.
Stuff, yeah.
The Jell-O stuff, yeah. So I think I chose Cosby, and I think you have a list of other celebrities. I chose Cosby because of his high-profile status, I think, is why that happened.
In this country, yes, you're exactly right. In this country, who's going to sell the most? Let's face it, all this goes down to dollars. Everything goes down to dollars.
Yeah.
If putting Cosby on the front of Enquirer will sell more papers than somebody else, they'll do it. It's at some level, what's going to sell?
Yeah, but caller, I know you're there, but it seems like Bill Cosby is under siege right now. That's the way I look at it. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. My question was because you have a personality like Alan Dershowitz, who's had some things alleged against him, and that guy, he goes on TV. He has the arrogance to rhetorically ask the question, does this look like the face of a child molester? And, I answered to myself, intro monologue, I said, of course your face looks like a pedophile because anybody can look like a pedophile. Anybody can look like a sexual abuser.
Or not.
So, it's that arrogance. And the fact that he's been defending all these guys who have been accused of rape and, sexual crimes, I don't know. It just makes me feel like that guy deserves a place on that discussion.
Okay. Thank you very much for the call.
Good observation. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I appreciate it very much. Let's go to the full screens again, major depression, and get through these quickly here. Let's go to the next one. And we talked about being tired and energy, feeling worthless and guilty, trouble concentrating, thoughts of suicide. Also, let's go to clinical depression before we go to break. I want to talk a little bit about clinical depression and how it's described. This is it. Untreated, it is a serious problem. Untreated, it increases the chance of risky behaviors such as drug and alcohol addiction. What other kind of risky behaviors would it involve besides that?
Well, for someone with low self-esteem, they could reach out to relationships. Trying to find some worthiness in a relationship, so that's another danger as well. Work too much, not work enough. There's all kinds of ways to compensate.
Yeah, and it can affect your relationship if you have one.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so it can affect your marriage, your relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend.
No question.
And it's hard to overcome clinical depression.
Clinical depression is what we call inherited, it's genetic. You know, it's somewhere in your family tree, it exists, and now you got it, and now you take medication to take care of it. There is situational depression, like grandma dies, and everybody feels sad and is down, and for a while there's a bit of a funk. Or if it happens near a holiday, then oh gosh, Christmas is never going to be the same. So there's a situational depression that can happen. Clinical depression is when it's chemistry. It's a chemical imbalance.
All right, and that is real. When people say you have a chemical imbalance, they're not. It's not a joke. That does exist,
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Depression can control your life. Let's put that one up there, right there. And that's what I'm afraid of. If I don't have long-term depression. We all have, days when we're in a funk, as you mentioned. I do too. But depression overall, long-term, can control your life, Peter. I know that for a fact, and I'm not an expert, but I know it can control your body, your mood swings, your thoughts. What else?
Well, when a person is depressed, it's hard to think beyond the depression. Having fun, being up. I talk to clients all the time who sometimes have to almost do extreme things just to feel something. You have to go skydiving or zip lining or something, or risky behaviors. I mean, those are risky behaviors, positive, but they're risky. And they'll do anything just to get out of that feeling. And sometimes that's the only thing that makes them feel alive, is when they push it to a limit. And that's a hard thing to do when you're depressed. Think about skydiving, you're depressed, is probably a bit of a stretch, but that does give the exhilaration that sometimes helps.
Yeah, so you feel better about yourself if you tomorrow you're going to be skydiving and you're successful. You're going to feel you're going to be pumping your chest out, right?
Well,
at least for a time.
At least you're doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, but that eventually will go away.
Yep.
That feeling of euphoria, right?
Yep.
All right. Here's the next one. People who are depressed cannot simply put themselves together and be cured. True?
True. How many times, we mentioned a few moments ago, snap out of it. You're blue, you're sad sack, snap out of it. And they're telling you that because, of course, they want you to snap out of it, but most of the people that say that they want to feel better. They can't figure out what you're doing, and if you just snap out of it and do better, they would feel better. So truly being empathetic with somebody with depression is going to be a hard thing to do. Really, instead of just snap out of it because you're making me uncomfortable, let's figure out what's going on with you and try to make it better. That's a hard thing for caretakers.
Quickly,
sometimes.
Before we go to break in 20 seconds, what's a percentage of people across the country that you know of, that you've read, all the research that you've done, that people that go untreated who are depressed?
Hard to know, because there is no number for that. Probably at least as many untreated as there are treated. I would say maybe more than that.
Are the ones who are untreated, are they dangerous to society?
Some. I mean, just by law of averages, some. Most people, it's just going to be they're just blue, they're just down, they're just not having much fun. The vast majority are just not enjoying their life very much.
Yeah. Hey, Peter Nazaretian is here, and you are there. You are free to call in, 436-ME-TV, option 11. If you're depressed, ask a question. Back in just a moment.
Tune in to Heartland for the best in true country music. Relive vintage specials, one-of-a-kind concerts, and country music's earliest videos. Heartland is the heart of country, the only place where you can find country music, country stars, and country lifestyles 24/7. Heartland, the heart of country.
Now on channel 13.2.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Whirlpool appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start, but you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Touch the new Whirlpool Ice Collection. It offers a modern style made to create an inspiring kitchen experience. Save big on this Whirlpool Black Ice or White Ice kitchen. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
All right, got a phone call here coming out. Let's take it real quick. Good morning, you're on Connect with me, and running short on time, so if you could make it kind of short, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, Peter, real quick question. People that are on dialysis, peritoneal, like my wife was before she died 5 years ago, I had a problem with the problem of anxiety and depression, and she had to go out and walk. Is that a common thing with a lot of peritoneal and dialysis patients? That's what I want to know.
Okay.
She went out and walk, is that what he said?
Yeah.
First of all, any kind of medical condition can lead to depression. Traditionally, when people have a heart attack or have an operation of some kind, there is some post-operative depression. That's very typical, situational, not necessarily chemical. Walking is one of the best ways in the world to stimulate that. You're getting the blood flowing, you're getting out and about, getting stimulation, so walking is a very good exercise. It's one of the great ways to combat depression. Plus, if you do it vigorously enough, you actually reduce some endorphins that lift the depression a little bit.
Wow, interesting.
Yep.
Hey, we talked about Bill Cosby. Other celebrities that have been way out there in left field. I don't know if they're depressed. I have no idea. I've never met them, never talked to them, don't know them. Miley Cyrus, Lindsay Lohan. You have a whole list of celebrities there you wanted to bring up. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, these are folks who have struggled, that you might know have struggled. Two of the ones you mentioned.
Yeah.
Astronaut Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, yeah.
Roseanne Barr, the comedian. Terry Bradshaw, the football player. Marlon Brando, Delta Burke from the old Designing Women days. Drew Carey, the talk show host. Jim Carrey, a comedian who practically manic all the time. It's hard to believe he suffers depression, but that's his overcompensation. John Hamm from Mad Men.
Mad Men,
Thank you.
yeah.
Nicki Minaj, of course, very popular. Ellen DeGeneres, another talk show host. Demi Lovato, a young woman who's very popular. Lady Gaga. Miley Cyrus, you mentioned. Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt, both of them struggle with depression. Halle Berry, Gwyneth Paltrow had postpartum depression. Brooke Shields, Sheryl Crow, Carrie Fisher. These are just a few.
Just a few. But you mentioned Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon back in 1969. I remember it well, was watching it just like you were. But his depression, though, did it have to do with going to the moon, seeing things that no other human being had seen before, and then coming back to Earth and suddenly realizing, wow, there really is more than just Mother Earth out there?
I never spoke to Buzz, but my impression is it's clinical depression, and that particular event probably didn't have anything to do with it.
Really? Going to the moon was completely...
Other than it just, what an amazing experience beyond the scope of understanding for most of us.
Yeah.
As far as we know, he had it before he went, he had it when he came back. That was just something that happened in the middle.
And just part of the Buzz Aldrin personality.
Yep.
All right, put up some full screens before we go here, because, by the way, what's your phone number before we run out of time here?
Yes, 252-9700.
Okay, 252-9700. Write that down. Types of depression. Major depression. All right. Here's a list of, keep them up there, and we'll go through them individually. What's major depression?
That's a diagnosis term. It's somebody who's pervasively depressed most of the time.
All right. Persistent depressive disorder. I've never heard of that.
A version of that. Some of these are sort of offshoots. This is someone who's depressed on a regular basis, maybe has moments of relief, but it is pretty persistent.
Wow. Okay. Bipolar. I've heard of that.
Very different kind of thing. The bipolar used to be called manic depression. Of course, the depression component of bipolar is what we're talking about here. But the manic side throws into a whole different thing. We'll have to have a show on that one of these days.
Yeah, I'd love to do bipolar because that's mood swings, high and low, right?
Yeah.
All right. The other one is seasonal affective disorder. That's another one I've never heard of.
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh. I'm just
no. It's called SAD, and that's when the days get short, when it gets dark, people get depressed because, in fact, there's a lack of sunlight.
Yeah, and I don't know. So what do people do about that? Seasonal depression, do they go sit outside or do they sit under a light or something?
Actually, there's a thing called a happy light, 10,000 lumens, that actually lifts the spirits. In Sweden, where there's a tremendous amount of depression because the days are short and it gets dark a lot, they actually put these lights on the walls under the booths of coffee shops, and people will come and roll up their pant legs or pull up their skirt and let this bathe the back of their legs, which is the best way to do it. Put their light in the back of the knees for about 30 minutes, lifts their spirits.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, okay, psychotic depression.
That's when you have, it flips over into something and acting out. They're not just blue, they're actually act out.
Acting out meaning like what? Do you have like hallucinations
Becoming
or something?
violent, becoming abrasive.
Wow.
Yeah, they can actually have a psychotic break and do almost anything.
All right. I've heard of postpartum depression.
Yeah, we talked about Gwyneth Paltrow. Woman has a baby, and for 3 or 4 months after that, she may not want to bond with the child, may feel blue and unhappy, and of course everybody expects her to be just thrilled with the new baby. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
Sometimes they're depressed about having a baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right. What about premenstrual dysphoric disorder?
A lot of our female listeners out there will know what that means. When it comes to that time of the month, for about a week beforehand, you can get out of sorts in many ways, and one of them is depression, just to get into a real funk.
All right. On this program, you've mentioned situational depression a couple of times. What is it, and how can you manage it?
It's a situation. Grandma died, lost your job, going to get audited, things like that, and you just get blue. Oh my God, this is happening to me, and it kind of knocks you down. The resilience goes away.
How about atypical depression?
Atypical is there may be a combination of depressive symptoms that don't seem to fit together. They may, for example, a person may be strangely upbeat but feel very depressed, or may not sleep very much, where you think somebody with depression would sleep a lot more. So some of the symptoms are a little odd. Doesn't happen too often, but sometimes we see that.
When I saw atypical, first thing I thought of was, well, is this something that everybody has across the board? Atypical? Not the case. No. Okay. Email question: electroshock therapy, is it making a comeback in your guest's opinion?
Thank you. Great question. Yes, but in a much different way. In fact, I have an article here I pulled out just to bring in today about they're coming out with a headband that you put on, and it actually delivers a low-level shock. Now, 1 or 2 milliamperes, as opposed to the 800 to 1,000 of shock therapy. So it's a very low wattage, a low voltage thing, but they find that if you can stimulate the brain, it might actually pull you out of depression. So there's some experimenting going on with that. And real quick, no one's asking this question, but I don't have time with this, but the rave drug called Special K, ketamine, is turning out to have tremendous potential for curing depression.
Really? I've never heard of that drug.
Yeah. It's the kids will take it, and it's called a rave drug. They'll party drug. They'll take it and dance and kind of crazy. At high levels, it creates that euphoric, almost kind of crazy atmosphere that you want. At lower levels, they're figuring out that it actually helps connect the dots, and people can take it, and they can actually, depression is relieved for months. So it has potential for a tremendous breakthrough.
How about the person who's depressed and they can say, you know what, I can fix myself. I don't need a therapist. I'm looking at television right now, and I'm seeing all these celebrities that have depression. You mentioned Buzz Aldrin, we mentioned Bill Cosby, Miley Cyrus, Lindsay Lohan, all these people. They have bigger problems than I do. I'm fine. If I have a little problem, I can fix myself, Peter.
I think that's most people. If I'm, a little bit of fun, nobody wants to have mental illness. Nobody wants it. So if they can talk themselves out of it, or drink themselves out of it, or gamble themselves out of it, or whatever the stimulation might be, who wouldn't want that? If I have to walk around with a bottle of pills in my pocket, it means I'm sick, and I don't want to be sick, so don't take the pill.
Interesting. Okay, phone number one more time before you leave, in case they want to get in touch with you.
Absolutely, please. 252-9700. I seldom answer the phone because I'm frequently in session, but you can leave a message. Again, 252-9700.
And we should add, don't be bashful about calling you, right? Don't be embarrassed, because
no, just make it. Make the call, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah. All right. Peter, always good to see you.
My pleasure, John.
You're back next month?
Always. Yes.
All right.
Let's do it again.
On the 21st, I believe.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Look forward to it.
Date straight. Got it. What's the matter with me? Anyway, 436-MeTV option 11. You can call in on Monday. We'll have a different guest, and who knows, we might even be in color on Monday. I don't know. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday. Thank you.